What do you get when you combine tropical jungles, misty mountains, and an island few outside Asia ever talk about? Welcome to Hainan, China's southernmost province and one of the most biodiverse islands in East Asia. Nicknamed the Hawaii of China, Hainan is more than just beaches and palm trees. It's a land of ancient rainforests, volcanic peaks, and deep green canopies where some of the world's weirdest and rarest birds live, often without anyone noticing. In this episode, we're diving beak first into 15 of the strangest, most colorful, and least known bird species from Hainan. Some are beautiful, some are bizarre, some don't even exist anywhere else on Earth. From glowing sunbirds to pheasants with secret eyes on their tails. This is Hainan like you've never seen it. Wild, winged, and full of surprises. So grab your binoculars and maybe a field guide translated from Mandarin, because these birds, they're not just rare, they're insane. Some birds are rare, some are beautiful, but this one, it's a legend wrapped in feathers. Meet the Hainan peacock pheasant, a bird so elusive, so mysterious, and so rare that for decades, scientists weren't even sure it was a real species. It lives deep in the tropical lowland forests of Hainan Island, the kind of rainforest where sunlight barely touches the ground and silence is broken only by the rustle of something just out of sight. Roughly the size of a chicken, this bird is anything but ordinary. Its body is covered in dark metallic plumage that shimmers purple and green in the shade, and its tail, a sweeping fan of feathers marked with iridescent eye spots, like a peacock's, but subtler, spookier, more secretive. Unlike most pheasants, it doesn't strut in open fields. It walks quietly through leaf litter, foraging for insects, seeds, and small invertebrates, a forest shadow with jewel-toned eyes on its tail. Fun fact, for a long time it was considered just a subspecies of the gray peacock pheasant from the mainland. But recent studies, when including DNA analysis, proved it's a separate endemic species, a true original found only in Hainan, and sadly that makes it vulnerable, very vulnerable. The Hainan peacock pheasant is now listed as critically endangered, with only a few hundred individuals believed to survive in the wild. Its habitat has been carved away by deforestation, roads, and plantations. But here's the hope. Several forest reserves in central and southwestern Hainan are now actively protecting its last remaining habitat. To see this bird in the wild is like seeing a ghost from another world, a glimpse into what tropical Asia once was. It doesn't sing loudly, it doesn't flash its feathers, but when it appears, it feels like the forest is holding its breath. Some birds fly, some singing, and some hide in leaf piles like introverts at a party. Meet the Hainan partridge, a small, round-bodied forest bird found only on Hainan Island, and one of the most secretive birds in all of China. Roughly the size of a mango, this partridge lives in the damp, shadowy undergrowth of tropical rainforests and rarely makes a public appearance. Its plumage is a mix of rich browns and olive tones, with striking black and white facial markings that look like a tiny feathered bandit wearing a kabuki mask. Its chest is beautifully patterned in dark barring, as if someone carefully sketched it with a fine pen. But the best word to describe this bird? Elusive. It spends most of its life walking through leaf litter, sniffing out seeds, insects, and small invertebrates. When threatened, it freezes completely, or vanishes into the underbrush like a magic trick. Fun fact, during colder seasons or after heavy rains, the Hainan partridge is known to disappear for days, sheltering in thick vegetation, almost like it's hibernating, or just tired of being perceived. Relatable. It was once thought to be a subspecies of other mainland partridges, but genetic and vocal differences proved otherwise. This bird is 100% Hainanese, and it's been that way for thousands of years. Sadly, it's also endangered. Habitat loss due to logging and agricultural expansion has left the Hainan partridge with only a few forest strongholds. But small-scale conservation efforts, especially in central Hainan's nature reserves, are helping protect what's left of its quiet world. Seeing one in the wild is a rare reward. You don't just spot a Hainan partridge, You earn the moment. If birds were painters, this one would have gone to art school, then rebelled. Meet the Chinese barbet, a bright green, thick-headed fruit lover with a face that looks like it lost a bet with a lipstick factory. Native to southern China and forests of Hainan, this chunky little bird is part of the barbet family. Known for their stubby bills, loud calls, and love of trees, the Chinese barbet is about 7 to 8 inches long, with grass-green plumage, a stubby black beak, and a bold red patch around the face and throat that looks like someone tried to apply blush during an earthquake. They nest in tree holes, which they dig themselves using their strong beaks, making them part carpenter, part pop vocalist. Because here's the thing, they never stop calling. Fun fact, the Chinese barbet has one of the loudest, most repetitive calls in the forest. A kind of mechanical wook 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 that echoes for miles like a broken woodpecker alarm clock. Some locals say it sounds like the jungle is stuttering, but hey, they need to be loud. They're defending their turf, attracting mates, and letting the whole forest know where the best fruit is. Chinese barbets mostly eat figs, berries, and other soft fruits, but they'll also snack on insects if they're feeling spicy. They're not currently endangered, but Hainan's forest fragmentation poses a growing threat, especially for species that rely on large old trees for nesting. So if you're wandering a subtropical forest on Hainan Island and hear a voice that sounds like a robotic hiccup machine, look up. You might just spot this messy-faced masterpiece bobbing its head from the shadows of a fruiting fig tree. Loud, vivid, a little weird, just the way we like it. If a bird could wear armor and strike a pose like a forest samurai, this would be it. Meet the Hainan subspecies of the silver pheasant, a rare and regal ground dweller that looks like it walks straight off a calligraphy scroll. This striking bird is a local version of the more widespread silver pheasant, but don't get it twisted. The Hainan form is unique, adapted to the island's dense, humid forests, and now found nowhere else. The males are the real showstoppers. Snow-white upper parts with delicate black penciling, glossy black underparts, and a crimson-red face mask that makes them look like masked warriors from an old Chinese legend. Their tail is long and elegant, curving behind them like a trailing ribbon of silk. The females, more understated, brown, camouflaged, practical, like the monk behind the master. These birds are mostly ground foragers, scratching through leaf litter for seeds, insects, and fallen fruit. But when alarmed, they can launch into the air with surprising speed, bursting through the canopy like feathered arrows. Fun fact, this subspecies is named whiteheady after British naturalist John Whitehead, who explored Southeast Asia in the 1800s and first described the bird. Unfortunately, like many of Hainan's forest dwellers, this bird's biggest threat is habitat loss. It depends on intact primary forest, and logging, development, and agriculture have squeezed it into fewer areas. Still, it survives, silently, proudly, like a warrior guarding the last temple in the jungle. Spotting one is rare, but if you do, you'll remember it. Because this isn't just a pheasant, it's a sword dancer in feathers, a brushstroke brought to life. Some birds sing solo, some hum in the background, but this one, it laughs, loud, and usually with a whole group of friends. Meet the greater necklace laughingthrush, a bird that lives like it's permanently stuck in a reality TV show. Found in the subtropical forests of southern China and Hainan Island, this species is all about teamwork and talking, moving through the undergrowth in noisy family flocks, like a gossipy bird gang in matching outfits. Visually, it's a vibe. Warm brown upper parts, white belly, black streaks down the chest, and a dramatic black necklace circling the throat, like it's always ready for an award ceremony or a mafia meeting. They're about the size of a pigeon, but 10 times more animated. These birds hop, dash, scold, and chirp in a never-ending mix of squeaks, chuckles, and whistles. Fun fact, that loud laugh isn't just for fun, it's how they keep the group together, warn of danger, and probably spill the forest's juiciest gossip. Laughing thrushes are omnivores, feeding on insects, seeds, fruit, and even the occasional lizard. They forage mostly on the ground, but they'll jump up into low shrubs or branches when something catches their attention, or when they just feel dramatic. And while they're not globally endangered, they depend on healthy forest undergrowth, which means habitat loss still puts pressure on their populations, especially in fragmented areas of Hainan. But as long as there's a patch of dense thickets and some juicy forest drama to discuss, you'll hear them, cackling through the trees like a woodland comedy troupe. The greater necklaced laughingthrush is proof that not all beauty in nature is quiet or refined. Some of it is loud, social, slightly chaotic, and completely fabulous. If jewelry could fly, this would be it. Say hello to the fork-tailed sunbird, a tiny iridescent burst of color that looks like it was handcrafted by a jeweler and programmed to hover like a hummingbird. Only 4 inches long, about the size of your thumb, this little sunbird is a visual treat. The male is especially dazzling. Metallic green crown, shimmering red throat, and split tail feathers that curve out like delicate tweezers. It's like nature tried to paint a rainbow using a single brushstroke. Native to southern China and Hainan Island, this species is a nectar specialist, darting between blossoms with rapid wing beats, feeding on hibiscus, bottlebrush, and other nectar-rich flowers. And unlike some other tiny birds, it's not shy. Fork-tailed sunbirds are often seen in gardens, parks, and edge forests, hovering or perching near flowers like little animated gems. Fun fact, while they resemble hummingbirds in flight, they're not related at all. Sunbirds evolved separately in the Old World, a classic case of convergent evolution at its finest. Their calls are soft, high-pitched zeet-see sounds, barely louder than the wind through leaves. But when sunlight hits their feathers, they speak fluent sparkle. Females, like in most sunbird species, are more understated, olive green with pale undersides, blending in while the males do all the showing off. While not considered endangered, they still rely on flowering trees and undisturbed forest edges, which are becoming scarcer due to urbanization and agriculture. Still, in the right corner of Hainan, on the right morning, you might catch a flash of red and green hovering over a bloom and wonder if you just saw a flying gem or the world blinking in color. If birds had K-pop stars, this one would be the solo ballad singer with dramatic eyeliner and a cult following. Introducing the Chinese hwamei, a medium-sized songbird known for its incredible vocals and its instantly recognizable white eye stripe that stretches like a perfectly drawn brushstroke from the corner of its eye to the back of its head. Found across southern China, including the forests and gardens of Hainan, this bird has been adored for centuries. Its name, hwamei, literally means painted eyebrow, and trust us, it delivers. The body is a warm brown, the face is expressive, and the song, pure poetry. Fun fact, the Chinese hwamei has one of the most complex, varied, and melodic songs in the bird world, full of whistles, trills, and flute-like phrases. It can sing for hours, often mimicking other birds or adding its own remix. Because of its voice, the hwamei has long been kept as a songbird in Chinese culture, especially by the elderly in parks, who take them out in cages to chat with other birds in early morning vocal duels. But in the wild, it's just as impressive. These birds live in dense undergrowth and bamboo forests, moving stealthily and singing boldly, like a backstage artist who always nails the final performance. Male and female hwameis look alike, and both sing, though the males are the real show-offs. While their numbers are stable in some areas, they've been heavily trapped in the past for the songbird trade. Luckily, protections in places like Hainan are helping preserve both their voice and their wild stage. So next time you hear a song in the forest that sounds too beautiful to be wild, follow it. You might find a bird with eyeliner sharper than yours and a voice that could close out a concert. Not all birds want the spotlight. Some would rather whisper from the shadows, camouflaged in green, singing only for those who really listen. Say hello to the Hainan leaf warbler, a tiny olive green bird found only on Hainan Island. And yes, it's as shy as it sounds. This little warbler is part of the Phylloscopus family, a group of small, insect-eating birds that are notoriously hard to tell apart. In fact, for years, this species was lumped in with others, until scientists finally realized, hey, that one sounds a little different. Fun fact, the Hainan leaf warbler was only officially recognized as a separate species in 2008, thanks to its unique song and subtle plumage differences. It's one of those birds where your ears are more useful than your eyes. Physically, it's not flashy. Olive green upper parts, paler underparts, a faint eye stripe. Classic leaf warbler camouflage. It's the bird equivalent of wearing forest-tone hoodies in a green room. But its song? A delicate, high-pitched series of trills and whistles. Like Morse code from the canopy. You probably won't see it first. You'll hear it. These birds forage actively in the mid to lower canopy, flitting between leaves and branches, picking off tiny insects with surgical precision. Fast, agile, almost invisible. Sadly, despite its recent discovery, the Hainan leaf warbler is already listed as vulnerable due to its extremely limited range and ongoing deforestation on the island. Protecting its habitat means preserving not just trees, but the soft music that lives among them. So next time you're in a Hainan rainforest, don't just look up, listen closely. You might hear a whisper of wings, a flutter in the leaves, and the quiet voice of a bird that only sings for those who stop to hear. If the forest had a lead singer, this would be the one with spiky hair, all black clothes, and a red mic. Meet the black bulbul, or more precisely, the Hainan subspecies of this iconic bird. And yes, it's as rock and roll as a fruit-eating songbird can get. Let's start with the look. Completely jet black plumage, a bright red beak, and a feather crest that sticks straight up like it's mid-solo. Seriously, it looks like it's been on tour since the 90s. This crested version is unique to Hainan Island and parts of southern China. And while other bulbuls might blend in, this one struts. You'll often see them perched high in the canopy, screaming their calls like forest frontmen. And trust us, they're loud. Fun fact, black bulbuls don't just sing, they shout, squawk, warble, and occasionally throw in a shriek that sounds like a mix between a kazoo and a broken saxophone. They're extremely social, usually found in pairs or small flocks, darting between fruiting trees like they're chasing an encore. Their diet? Mostly berries and soft fruits, with the occasional insect if they're feeling edgy. And despite the dramatic appearance, they're actually very adaptable, thriving in forests, plantations, even near villages, which means if you're anywhere near tree cover in Hainan, you'll probably hear them before you see them. They're not endangered yet, but deforestation and fragmentation could eventually put pressure on these little divas. So yes, even the rock stars need stage protection. Seeing a black bulbul feels like catching your favorite band doing a surprise gig in the middle of the jungle. Sudden, loud, unforgettable. So if you hear chaotic vocals from the treetops and spot something black with wild hair, congrats. You've just been photobombed by the forest resident punk. If you could paint a flame and give it wings, you'd get this bird. Meet the Scarlet minivet, a forest fire in motion, a literal brushstroke of red and black darting through the green canopies of Hainan. This medium-sized songbird is one of the most visually stunning creatures in Asia, and the male is an absolute scene stealer. Bright scarlet body, deep black wings, and a long, elegant tail that trails behind like a silk ribbon in the wind. It's the kind of bird that makes you stop mid-hike and whisper, "Wait, what was that?" The female, by the way, is no slouch either. Wearing yellow and gray, she looks like she stepped out of a vintage fashion shoot. Same style, different palette. Scarlet minivets live in tropical and subtropical forests and are common in Hainan's evergreen hills, moving in pairs or small flocks, usually high in the canopy where sunlight catches their colors like stained glass. Fun fact, despite their fiery look, they're not aggressive at all. They're peaceful insectivores, sifting through leaves and branches for caterpillars, beetles, and other forest snacks. Their call is a sweet, high-pitched whistle, soft but persistent, like a flute echoing through the trees. You'll hear them before you spot them, and spotting them, it's like finding a drop of sunset in the jungle. They're not endangered, but their beauty makes them a frequent target for photographers. and sadly sometimes the pet trade. Fortunately, Hainan's nature reserves offer solid protection. So if you're walking through the woods and suddenly catch a flash of red on black, don't blink. You've just glimpsed the Scarlet minivet, a flying ember, a perfect visual and proof that sometimes the forest paints with fire. In the tangled green world of the Hainan rainforest, not everything flutters and sings. Some creatures stalk, strike, and vanish without a sound. Meet the crested goshawk, a small but deadly bird of prey that moves through the forest like a feathered ninja. Roughly the size of a crow, this raptor is built for stealth and agility. With rounded wings and a long tail, it weaves effortlessly through thick branches at high speed, ambushing unsuspecting prey with pinpoint accuracy. Its appearance, subtle but sharp. Dark brown upper parts, barred underparts, and a short, spiky crest on its head, like a warrior's top knot. But what really grabs you is the stare, piercing yellow eyes that look like they're scanning your thoughts. Crested goshawks are skilled hunters, feeding on birds, squirrels, lizards, and large insects. They wait silently from a hidden perch, then explode into action, a blur of feathers and claws. Fun fact, unlike some raptors that prefer wide-open skies, this species thrives in dense forests, making it one of the few hawks that's actually good at flying through trees without crashing. In Hainan, they're found in both primary forests and well-wooded parks. As long as there are trees tall enough to launch an ambush from, they're not endangered, but like many forest predators, they rely on healthy ecosystems to support enough prey. And while they're not flashy, there's a quiet elegance in how they move. A stillness before the storm, a blade hidden in the leaves. You won't hear them coming. You'll only know they were there when something disappears. The crested goshawk is the jungle's silent enforcer, precise, patient, and always watching. When the forest sleeps, this little owl wakes up, stretches, blinks its big orange eyes, and starts calling like it forgot other birds are trying to rest. Say hello to the collared scops owl, a pint-sized nocturnal predator with big ears, a big voice, and an even bigger case of I do what I want. Standing just 20 centimeters tall, this owl is part of the scops owl family, a group known for their tiny size, upright ear tufts, and surprisingly loud calls. Its plumage is all shades of brown and gray, with intricate streaks and spots that make it basically invisible when perched, like a patch of bark with judgmental eyes. But those ear tufts, iconic. They look like tiny horns, giving it a permanently alert expression, like it's always just heard gossip in the forest. In Hainan, the collared scops owl lives in wooded areas, forest edges, even large parks. It's nocturnal, of course, hunting insects, spiders, small lizards, and sometimes even mice. It flies silently, drops from branches like a whisper, and nails its prey with impressive precision. But the voice? That's where the stealth ends. Fun fact, its call is a repeating, slightly metallic whoo-whoo-whoo, often at night, but sometimes during the day. And when it does, the rest of the forest is not amused. Imagine someone revving a scooter at 6 a.m. Despite the drama, it's a harmless and even endearing owl, a crucial part of the nighttime ecosystem. It helps keep insect populations in check and adds that spooky forest soundtrack we all secretly love. It's not globally endangered, but local populations depend on having enough quiet, undisturbed forest to hunt in. So if you're walking at dusk in Hainan and the trees seem to blink, listen closely. That piece of bark with ears? Yeah, it sees you, and it's judging your nightlife fashion choices. If a dragon ever disguised itself as a bird, this would be it. Introducing the Asian fairy bluebird, a creature so vividly colored, it looks like it flew straight out of a fantasy novel. The male is pure visual poetry, deep velvet black body, overlaid with electric blue feathers that shimmer like polished sapphire when the light hits just right. It's not just blue, it's what in the world is that blue. The female, in contrast, is a soft, mossy teal, more subtle, but just as magical. Native to the tropical forests of South and Southeast Asia, The Asian fairy bluebird finds a secret stronghold on Hainan Island, where it haunts the upper canopy of mature forests. That's right, this is a high-level birder's dream. Rarely seen, often only heard. A flash of color between the leaves, a shape that disappears before your camera's even focused. Fun fact, despite its mythical appearance, this bird is real, and its voice, a mix of low whistles, odd bubbling notes, and soft hoots, like someone gently trying out a flute for the first time. They mostly eat fruit, especially figs, but will also snack on insects and flower nectar. And because they hang out in the treetops, they play a key role in seed dispersal, keeping the jungle growing. In many cultures, this bird is seen as a symbol of magic, freedom, or the spirit of the forest. And honestly, fair enough, they're not considered globally endangered, but local populations, like those in Hainan, are threatened by logging and forest fragmentation. Because when you live high in the trees, you need those trees. Spotting one is rare, photographing one, even rarer. But if you're lucky, you might catch a streak of glowing blue crossing a beam of morning light. And for a moment, you'll believe in forest spirits. If color had wings and a sense of dramatic timing, you'd get this next bird. Meet the blue-throated bee-eater, a streak of living rainbow that zips through the skies like a firework with a mission. This bird is eye candy with attitude. Imagine a turquoise blue throat, chestnut head, green wings, and a long, pointed tail, all packaged into a slim, aerodynamic design built for aerial precision. Native to Southeast Asia and southern China, this bee-eater makes its seasonal appearance on Hainan Island like an acrobat joining the forest summer festival. And yes, the name is literal. They eat bees and wasps and dragonflies. Basically, if it's flying and looks tasty, they're going after it. But here's the coolest part. They catch insects midair, with graceful looping dives, twisting and turning with the kind of flair that would put a jet pilot to shame. Fun fact, before eating a stinging insect, the bee-eater smacks it against a branch to disarm the sting, like a tiny bird ninja removing a blade before dinner. They nest in colonies, often in sandy banks or flat ground, where they dig long tunnels into the earth. Underground homes for these high-flying hunters. It's like having a beach house and a private runway. Their calls are cheerful and twangy, a repeated preet-preet that echoes over meadows and forest clearings, like a summer ringtone you don't want to silence. While not globally threatened, they rely on open woodlands and undisturbed ground for nesting, meaning habitat changes still affect them. But when the light is just right and a flock of them takes off from the treetops, you'll swear the sky just lit up with flying jewels. Fast, colorful, tactical. The blue-throated bee-eater is nature's precision drone, painted by a candy-obsessed artist. Not every star needs a spotlight. Some simply stand in the shadows and sing. Introducing the white-rumped shama, a quiet, sleek songbird whose voice could melt even the most jaded jungle heart. Found across South and Southeast Asia and living quietly in the forests of Hainan Island, this bird may look understated, but once it starts singing, you'll understand why it's adored by birders and musicians alike. Visually, it's elegant. The male sports a deep black head and back, chestnut belly, and, as the name suggests, a bright white rump revealed when it flies. And that tail, long, flowing, constantly flicking, like a metronome for its songs. But the real show is the voice. Fun fact, the white-rumped shama is considered one of the best songbirds in Asia. Its call is rich, complex, and full of whistles, warbles, and mimicry. It doesn't just sing, it performs. Each male develops his own unique song, adding personal flair, sometimes even mimicking other species. And they sing from the shadows, perched low in thick vegetation, rarely seeking attention, but always commanding respect. Historically, the shama has been highly prized as a cage bird, especially in China and Southeast Asia. Its popularity led to overtrapping in some areas, but thanks to stronger protections, populations on Hainan remain stable in protected zones. It thrives in undisturbed forests, quiet corners, shady thickets, Anywhere it can sing without interruption. If you're lucky enough to hear one in the wild, pause. Let it play. Because in a forest full of color, chaos, and chatter, the white-rumped shama is the soloist, refined, melodic, timeless. Not every star needs a spotlight. Some simply stand in the shadows and sing. Introducing the white-rumped shama, a quiet, sleek songbird whose voice could melt even the most jaded jungle heart. Found across South and Southeast Asia and living quietly in the forests of Hainan Island, this bird may look understated, but once it starts singing, you'll understand why it's adored by birders and musicians alike. Visually, it's elegant. The male sports a deep black head and back, chestnut belly, and, as the name suggests, a bright white rump revealed when it flies. And that tail, long, flowing, constantly flicking, like a metronome for its songs. But the real show is the voice. Fun fact, the white-rumped shama is considered one of the best songbirds in Asia. Its call is rich, complex, and full of whistles, warbles, and mimicry. It doesn't just sing, it performs. Each male develops his own unique song, adding personal flair, sometimes even mimicking other species. And they sing from the shadows, perched low in thick vegetation, rarely seeking attention, but always commanding respect. Historically, the shama has been highly prized as a cage bird, especially in China and Southeast Asia. Its popularity led to overtrapping in some areas, but thanks to stronger protections, populations on Hainan remain stable in protected zones. It thrives in undisturbed forests, quiet corners, shady thickets, anywhere it can sing without interruption. If you're lucky enough to hear one in the wild, pause. Let it play. Because in a forest full of color, chaos, and chatter, the white-rumped shama is the soloist, refined, melodic, timeless.